Hills, Michigan, on March 11th, 2025. Please rise to say the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will now review the consent agenda. Any questions or discussion for items listed?
I have a few. I know, Amy, you sent out this revised, you gave us this revised form. There's just a couple things it sounded like we resolved these, but I didn't think they were resolved.
Nor did I.
So I guess, do you want me to go through what?
So do you have additional amendments than what were provided?
I have some edits that are recommended.
So would you like me to, the email that the mayor sent me today, I considered those amendments in regard to the actual recording of the meeting. And so what is provided on your table is what I was comfortable with. If there's other amendments that the city commission wants to consider, then I would propose that you address the commission with your amendments.
Okay. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to
Sure.
go first? I just was looking at this prior to the meeting, but first of all, you stated that Mayor Fisher expressed her issues with several sections of the policy related to open subcommittee meetings. I think actually it was all of us who were asking questions about that. It wasn't just Mayor Fisher, so I think.
So I received an email from Mayor Fisher requesting that a summary be added, so I just put her name. But if it's something that you want to add, I think you can make an amendment to the city commission.
Okay, I think we should make, I think we should make an amendment, because in my notes, and I went back to my notes from the last meeting when we were talking.
I used the recording, the
Okay,
video
yeah.
recording.
Yeah, that's
And
fine.
that's what I was comfortable with when I presented.
Okay.
But in the meeting, I also was very clear that I feel strongly about transparency.
Mhm.
And I'm very open to that. So that is not indicated here. And I think it should be, to go along with
So that's
what
an
you
amendment
said.
you can propose to the city commission to consider.
I would agree with that. I would second that.
all commissioners are strongly in favor of transparency.
If I may speak, I think this is getting very confusing. I mean, we had this that we reviewed, and now you're proposing more, and we don't have a full commission today, and Commissioner Baxter was at the last meeting as well, and I think it would be helpful if we could table this for now and cover it at the next meeting when we have everyone present and when you can get this organized, because this is very, very confusing what you're saying, and I think we all would need to consider, since you're saying you said things at the meeting, we'd almost have to go back and listen to the meeting, all of us, to get to this level of detail. It seems like it's a great level of detail that we normally don't put in minutes, honestly. So I would like to propose that we table it. I understand you have issues, and I think we all should consider them. And I think, if you could get it all together and organize it.
I did get it together, and I sent it to the city, and this.
Well, I
this was
think
just
Amy
presented to me,
had to
so-
make these
and
revisions.
transparency was key, and that's not mentioned.
Well, I mean, I don't remember that level of detail at the last meeting. If you want me to agree to language, I think we just need to go back. First of all, you need to put it together in an organized way.
I did
and then,
originally.
And draft your changes. And then we can consider them at the next meeting when everyone is present. That's all I'm asking. I'm not saying I'm not considering them. I said we need more time. We can't really, there's no time to look at this and to think back as to what was said. So, and there's a process that we can do it. We table it. I move we table approval of the minutes of the February 11th City Commission meeting until the next meeting of the City Commission, where all 5 commissioners are present, and further direct that the city clerk provide the amended minutes for consideration at such next regular meeting, and that the corrected minutes should show both the original entry and the corrections. And rather than go into detail right now on all of this, it's too hard.
My only request to that amendment, which I like, is that we have an opportunity to look at it prior to, because I would not want to, I wouldn't want to sort it out here. I'd like
No.
to try to sort it out in advance so we could get
with
right to it.
I
So
agree.
I support that. It'll be too hard to do otherwise, I think.
So
Yes.
Amy, is that something that you and the mayor could work on together to get it to the right, what the mayor and you, I mean, because the mayor's name goes on this as well. So it's something that she should agree to, whatever is on there.
Well, the minute policy that I shared with everyone today requires that the full city commission adopt amendments. So when I proposed the amendments that you have before you, that was what I was comfortable with based on the recording. If each commissioner has amendments that they'd like to add, because you're absolutely correct, the mayor was not the only one that made comment. She's the only one that asked me for an amendment in the minutes. So if the rest of the commission has amendments that they would like to see included in the meeting, then I think the proper procedure, as Commissioner Fisher suggested, is that it comes before the meeting and there's an opportunity to compare the actual recording of the meeting to the proposal, and then that can be presented to the commission at the next meeting if you choose to table this today.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that you write the minutes and my name is on the minutes, and I had asked to review the minutes, and I'm only given a matter of days. And I did get it back to you, we did talk, so
You had asked me yesterday to.
there might be
review the
something we can
minutes.
do regarding the policy on minutes to properly prepare them. So that, I think you did your best to reflect what you heard in the meeting. I appreciate
It
that,
wasn't what
but
I heard at
this
the
was,
meeting.
this agenda was not accepted at the meeting. This policy was not accepted at the meeting, and it's not clear in the minutes. And that needs to be clear in the minutes.
Which
Well-
policy wasn't accepted?
The policy was not accepted in the meeting.
Well, you didn't vote on the policy, so
No.
if
Yes, but there was no mention in the minutes of the number of comments from all the commissioners that they did not agree with this policy that was created by one person that previously had been created by the planning commission, the mayor, and multiple members of elected and residents of the city,
I understand.
and people that are appointed. And this was just brought up by one person and changed by one person. And we did not get the edits in advance of the last meeting, which is why there was so much controversy. And I had asked that we get a red line version showing the changes before that meeting, and that didn't happen. So that's why there was this unfortunate controversy.
So I hear that we're discussing the policy and the minutes. The minute policy that I shared just applies to the minutes. So I have to record what happened at the meeting. If there's amendments that the commission wants to make and you make the motion to table it, all of those amendments will be considered to the recording of the meeting. And that's what I am bound to, is to document what happened at the meeting.
Okay, but I agree, I just want to make one final comment. Like, for the administrative policy that was proposed to us, I'm just going to ask everybody. I thought the next step, we didn't agree to it, the next step was Dave said, I will contact
Yes.
Walt, the chairperson, and go over it with Walt.
And that's what the minutes
And
require.
that's,
Yes.
The minutes do say that, but
it's
Okay.
important that we all understand that the minutes are not meant to be a position piece. The minutes are intended to accurately reflect what was said to the extent that you can in the minutes. So, it's not to be used to say, look, I said this and it supports a particular position. In fairness, I mean, I had substantial conversation about subcommittees being subject to the Open Meetings Act based on the Pine Brook Manor case. There's no mention in the minutes about that, and that's fine, because minutes are supposed to be short and sweet. That's.
But in the past, they've been more about discussion, there have been more words of what people have said. And you expressed to me in the policy that the minutes only indicate things that have been approved and are going, into action. And that's all you showed was his choice of what he would like the policy to look like. And there was, when you were reading the minutes, there was no understanding that the commission was not comfortable with all the items in the policy.
Well,
And it
I don't
did
think there was any requirement that we approve the policy. I thought that was stated.
There isn't, and I think we're going off on a tangent that we
Yes.
don't really need to go on, because I don't want to turn this discussion of the minutes into a discussion of the policy. That's,
No, I don't either. I just, the minutes reflect what was decided or what conclusion, and I didn't like how the minutes made it look like there was a decision to accept the policy.
under the ordinance amendment, under the minutes policy that was adopted by council in 2010, something like that. I think the appropriate thing is what's being suggested, that if there are additional changes that commissioners want, to provide those to Amy. And at the next meeting, Amy can bring back what she's comfortable with, and if the commission agrees with it, they can approve the minutes, and if not, then you can approve some other version of it. But I think it
Okay.
would behoove everybody to
I agree.
offer whatever suggestions they have.
Okay,
Okay, would anyone
So-
like to second?
I think it's already been seconded by Commissioner
Support it.
Fisher.
okay.
He
Oh, did you
second.
form-
Yeah, no, I support it.
With
I think
the-
it's, I think
with
it's
the
good that we get our
change.
heads together and then come as a unified voice.
Yeah,
Okay.
but you had a suggested change. What was, did you say what you meant? Oh, you said you wanted to see them before. or
No,
work
I
on
just
it
want, I
before.
wanted to have the opportunity to discuss it before as opposed to here,
Yes,
because I think we'll be more
I agree.
effective at
I
getting it
agree.
done.
I agree. Are you okay with it? You're changing that proposal?
Right, there was just a,
Alice?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
We're
all
gonna
those
take
in
a vote.
favor of Commissioner Buckley's motion?
Aye. So
Aye.
we won't be agreeing on the consent agenda, right?
Correct.
Correct.
tabling it,
Okay, we're
right.
tabling
We're
it.
tabling the entire,
You're just tabling the minutes.
The minutes.
just the minutes, okay,
The rest of the consent agenda you can still approve.
Oh, we can? Okay,
okay.
okay.
Are there any questions about the Planning Commission 2024 annual report?
No, I didn't have any.
Okay, great. Thank you for preparing that. May I hear a motion to approve? Oh, any other issues? Sorry.
Sorry. I just wanted to ask, I saw in, thank you, Sandra, for 1 and 2, being sent to us, because I looked at that and I'm like, oops. So you had a ZBA notice for $492. Do we have to do ZBA notices for every meeting?
Yes, it's required to be noticed in the newspaper of local circulation, and as of today, the Open Press is the only publication that meets that qualification, so it is costly.
Okay, is the planning commission have to do that too?
The planning commission has to be noticed for specific items, not every item in the planning commission.
Okay, all right, and then, I'm not opening this back up, Dirk, don't come in. But we talked about the expense of subcommittees, so would subcommittees have to also be in a newspaper? Or would it be subject to,
It's just subject to the notice requirements of the Open Meetings Act, which I think is generally posting on the website and posting it outside.
18 hours in advance of the meeting.
oh, so we don't have to post it in the newspaper? The only one in the newspaper is the ZBA plus the planning commission if it's a certain topic?
There are others, the Board of Review, Construction Board of Appeals, but the ones that you specifically mentioned, yes, those are the only two.
Okay, all right, thank you. Leah's not here? No? Okay, well, can't ask that question then to her. And to the new chief, I just noticed that you're doing a lot of training, and I think that's wonderful, that you're doing all of that and that it's being beneficial to everybody. I think continuous training is important.
The members of the agency are really stepping up and doing a lot of extra that we're asking them for, and they're doing well. Thank you.
Are you allowed to speak in public of what a BTAM team is?
It's a behavioral threat assessment management team. It was part of a threat assessment when a student or a member makes an outward threat or an indication that they're going to commit violence or harm to those around them, even themselves. It's a coordinated team between the schools, mental health professionals, and law enforcement. That law was signed into effect, I believe, earlier this year by the governor, requiring that all public and private schools train and develop a BTM team with their local law enforcement agencies. I think October of 26. And we, Cranbrook invited us, members of the staff, school liaison officer, center, and the captains and I attended that training, developing our resources with them to address that and comply with that law this year as opposed to next year.
So do you have to do that with every private school that we have in the city? Because we don't have a public school.
It's incumbent upon the schools to do that with law enforcement, and Cranbrook had, I believe, 80 members of their team, with the 4 members of our team developing that training, attending that training and developing that team.
Oh, okay. All right, well done.
We're waiting for the other schools. We're waiting for the other schools.
Okay,
Great.
good to know. Thank you.
I'd also like to add, I'm glad there's an increase in qualified and highly skilled applicants. So that's exciting and tribute to your leadership and
Is that,
networking and
is
thank
that
you.
across, is that just because we know we're,
Is that across?
yeah, other cities?
Some agencies are doing well, and I think we are doing well. I commend the recruitment team, Sergeant Simon, and the members of the hiring staff that go out and do that. They're really doing the work, identifying the candidates, and recruiting them to come work for the Bloomfield Hills Public Safety Department. So I would love to take credit for it, but I can't. It's Sergeant Simon and the administrative team.
Thank
Good,
you.
well done.
Thank you for hard work.
Quick question, Mayor. Maybe this is Sandra or David, but the salt shed that we're working on, one, where are we in terms of, finishing, and are we relatively on track to what we anticipated? I know there's been overruns in some examples, but
Yeah.
but where do you think you'll be directionally when it's done?
So we're about 80% done.
Okay.
We are, I originally said $100,000. To be honest with you, I wasn't exactly sure, just got some estimates. Engineering is about 30,000. So the design and structural engineering and drawing the plans and all that, it was $30,000. And we have about $100,000 into the construction of it.
To date, or?
To date.
Okay.
And so there's a door on it. It's about $30,000, a 16-foot wide and 17-foot tall door. That's about $30,000. So we're going to probably be about 150, maybe 150 to 180. Other than that's not including the engineering. And so I did get original estimates. I have companies do this, and they're about 350. So we've saved a lot of money by managing it ourselves.
Are we still within budget, Sandra? I mean,
Well-
to be able to absorb?
We're a little bit over.
Over, yeah, yeah.
That we were budgeted for 100,000. A portion of it, we're going to ask the commissioners to approve it in next year's budget to complete the project.
That's what I thought. We're going to make an amendment to that, right?
Well,
Or
just
no?
kick the can into
Yes.
next year's budget.
Yeah, next year's. You'll have to make it. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. Okay. When will it be done, you said?
Well, we have the door left, we have electrical left, and the floor. We're going to have an asphalt floor, some lighting. That's about it. We have to put the brine tank, we have to pour a slab for the brine tank, put the brine tank and the pump in. That's all that's left. So I'd like to get it done before the next budget, to be honest with you. So we'll have to come back and ask the commission for a budget amendment.
Yeah.
So what, if you were going to give us a total cost right now, once you finish, completed cost?
I think it's going to be between 150 to 160 to 170,000, I believe, not including the engineering. Engineering is a lot higher than I thought.
So roughly 200 total.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, roughly 200 total. And I think the only thing that we'll do after July 1st is the asphalt floor, because I'm gonna try to rope that in with some other road projects if the commission approves of those projects.
Yeah, we should probably do an amendment. We would definitely want that done before next
Yeah.
fall comes.
Yeah, and we have been working with Cranbrook. I think they're going to build a salt shed or salt building for themselves. We actually own a building on their property, and we're getting bids right now. It's a strange situation, but we're getting bids right now to remove that building. That's what Cranbrook wanted initially, but I haven't followed up with them lately to see what they want to do with that. But we're not going to leave them hanging. We're going to make sure that they, have salt, whatever they need to, until we completely have our building done, remove our old building, and then have
Oh,
our
so
own
we
So
operation.
own
they
that
won't be able
salt
to use
building.
their own, they won't be able to use that building for salt?
Their plan is to build a new one like we are.
Uh-huh.
And the building that's on their property, that's ours, it was built in 1970, something like that. It's dilapidated, it's falling apart.
So the whole purpose to separate us from them is they're going to now come to your salt
No, they would have their own, so they're going to
That'll
build
take
their
a
own
year.
building on their own property. Our idea was to get rid of our building that's on their property and have our own building at DPW where our salt trucks are. And so there's a few benefits to that. One is we can really keep an eye on how much salt we're using, so when we're ordering salt, we're not ordering too much or not enough. And also, it's what better place to have the salt building where the salt trucks are. So the salt trucks get filled up and off
And
they
you've done a
go.
great job with the roads, so thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Really great.
that's great.
So Cranbrook won't be using the old, I mean, because it takes a year to build and.
Yeah, so,
Winter and-
well, they've been very gracious and, allowing this transition. But we're gonna leave the building as long as they want it, but we are getting bids right now to remove it. It's about a $15,000 removal fee. But, I believe they want it removed, but I haven't talked with them recently. But initially, when we let them know we want to build our own building, have our own salt building, they wanted the building gone. And, but we're not gonna do that until after July 1st. During the budget process, we'll come to you and say, we would like to get 15,000 or whatever the bids are, to remove the building, and then we'll probably do it after July 1st, if Cranbrook doesn't need it.
Thank you for working with them.
That's
great.
good, okay.
Okay, may I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda for March 11th, 2025,
Oh, make a-
without the minutes?
Yeah,
And with the addition of the planning commission's
And we-
annual report.
Right, it's in the
Yeah.
agenda there.
okay.
Move to approve.
Second?
I'll second.
Great, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Great, consent agenda is approved without the minutes. Public comment. We will now open the floor for public comments. If there's anyone in the audience who wishes to address the council, please step forward, state your name and your address for the record, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Really? Okay. The commission will now hear from Chief King.
Good evening. Mayor Fisher, Mayor Pro Tem McCarthy, Commissioners Buckley and Fisher, City Managers, City Manager Hendrickson and city staff, family, friends, department members, current and past. Thank you for joining us in recognizing and celebrating the promotion of a new leader for the Bloomfield Hills Public Safety Department. It's my pleasure to introduce everybody, Sergeant Chad Keene, the latest member of our department's command staff. Sergeant Keene has been described as dedicated, hardworking, and dependable. He is known as being passionate about public safety and leadership. And rumor has it, he is widely regarded as one of the best bakers in public safety.
Wow.
Sergeant Keene grew up in Grand Blanc, graduating from Grand Blanc High School in 2004. We won't hold that against you.
Go Bobcats.
He continued his education by attending Kirkland Community College, majoring in criminal justice. He also attended the Standish Fire Academy, graduated in 2005, achieving his state certifications in Firefighter 1 and 2 and hazmat operations. In 2006, he acquired his associate's degree, graduating on the President's List. He also graduated from the Kirkland Police Academy that same year, obtaining his state certification as a law enforcement officer. Sergeant Keene began his public safety career with the Bloomfield Hills Public Safety Department in 2007 when he was 21 years old. Since then, Sergeant Keene has served with honor and distinction, assuming additional roles and leadership positions within the agency, including as a department instructor in PPCT, night defense, and firearms, as an agency fire investigator and motorcycle operator, and finally, as president of the Public Safety Officers Union. Sergeant Keene has routinely been recognized by his peers and supervisors for his outstanding dedication and professionalism, receiving numerous letters of praise, commendations, and life-saving citations. At this time, I would like to call forward his daughters Kendall and Kinsley for the badge pinning. Hold on, close.
Aw.
Congratulations.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bloomfield Hills Public Safety Department Sergeant Chad Keene.
Who's, can you introduce who's with you today?
Yep, you've already got my daughters, my mom, Bonnie, my dad, Tim, my girlfriend, which couldn't make it, she has a new job at U of M, so she's a nurse there, so she couldn't make it, but Jan and Nora are her parents, so
Aw.
they came here.
Very
Wonderful.
nice. That's wonderful.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well
Thank you
deserved.
for your service.
Thank you, I
Yes.
appreciate it.
Speech.
I'm gonna go stand over here. Thank you. This is a great honor. As some of the guys can contest, and some of the command officers, it took me a long time to get to this point, but I wanted to make sure that I was ready for this, and I was ready in my personal life for this transition, because to me it's a lot of work, and I want to make sure I was able to give the city everything that they need from me as a sergeant. So it took me a while, but I finally did it, and I couldn't have done it without my family and their support, and obviously the support from the guys, which means a lot, and former employees that came out, and it means a lot. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to have its challenges, I'm sure, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Great.
Great.
I appreciate
Thank
it.
you for your dedication. Congratulations. The commission will now hear a presentation from Dr. Telly Whitfield with MetroNet, a high-speed fiber internet service provider, with a brief overview of their fiber optic infrastructure project proposed in Oakland County.
Mayor, I just want to make a comment, if I could, about, this was actually a master plan goal.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so it's part of the 2020 or 2000, last year's reaffirming the master plan. There were certain goals in it, and this goal actually started in 2017 when Mike Coakley was a commissioner. It was one of the things that he wanted to get done, and we worked on it years ago. We just never were able to find anybody that wanted to come in our city and put the infrastructure in. And one of the main reasons is that we have these nice estate-sized lots, and it's better for companies to come in and install infrastructure in places that are much more condensed. And so I think hopefully we're on the right track, and the first step is to listen to this presentation. Then I think we have someone from Seacrest Water Herald here to discuss what's next steps with this process. So thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Good evening, Mayor Fisher and City Council members. My name is Telly Whitfield. I am the Director of New Market Development with MetroNet. I have with me my esteemed colleague, Regional Vice President Ben Rusick. We are excited to be here. And as the City Manager mentioned, we are here because we want to be here. And what's really outstanding about this opportunity is that one of the things I used to say, and I'll give a little bit about my background in a minute, but one of the things that I used to say all the time was communities don't stay the same. Communities either progress or regress. And it's wonderful when you have an opportunity to work with a community that's actually investing in themselves to grow. And one of the things that's really outstanding about the work that we do is we are able to do that and continue to bring quality of life in a great community by bringing in fiber infrastructure. So today what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about what MetroNet is, but before I do that, I'd like to talk a little bit about my background, because I think it's a unique experience. So I spent 25 years sitting in the chair right there. I was a city manager. My last position was actually as the assistant city manager for Fayetteville, North Carolina. For those of you who don't know Fayetteville, it's been in the news because it's always in the news because of Fort Bragg, Fort Liberty, and now back to Fort Bragg. And so the largest military installation in the United States. I was with the city of Fayetteville as assistant city manager for 5 years. In 2019, Metronet came to us and said we wanted to invest $70 million of private investment into your community to build fiber infrastructure. How can we make that happen, right? So over the next 2 years, I actually worked with Metronet to create all the agreements that were necessary to legally have Metronet to come in, build a fiber infrastructure. Fast forward past the pandemic, I can happily say that we have completed that project. Over 60,000 households now have access to high-speed fiber. And so what Metronet does is we are the largest independently private-owned fiber to the premise ISP in the country. We have been doing pure play fiber since 2005. Currently, we're in 18, about to be 19 states. We have over 2 million subscribers, and we're working in or have provided services for 300 communities, including here in Michigan. Here in Michigan, we actually have plant in the western part of the state, in Kalamazoo, and Grand Rapids, and Portage, Lansing, and East Lansing. And over the last year, we have started to look and investigate and explore opportunities to bring our fiber infrastructure into eastern Michigan. So over the last couple months, I've been able to work with several municipalities, having very solid conversations about the need to bring in additional fiber infrastructure as a competition for high-speed broadband. Why? Because it's not only the infrastructure for now, but it's infrastructure for the future. So you're future-proofing your community when we bring in fiber. So amazingly, I spent 25 years working in local government. What I always said was I built communities. Now I have the opportunity to build communities across the country. So I'm very excited to be here. I appreciate your time. We're going to run through a little bit about Metronet and then also have an opportunity to move forward and have some conversations about what's next. I will say this, is that when we come into the community at this point, not only are we interested, but we're ready to go. So over the last, and Attorney Knox can attest, over the last couple weeks, we've actually started to apply for our Metronet applications in these communities. In Oakland County itself and in Macomb County itself, we believe that there's about 100,000 households and businesses that are not being serviced to the proper resource of having high-speed broadband internet. And that's why we're here. We believe we could fulfill that service. So who is Metronet? As I indicated, Metronet is I think that's, if it can do I wasn't a math major, but if I do my math, I believe that's 17 states. And we have some students in the audience, so feel free to check my math there. But Metronet was established in 2005, was our first build. We are a Midwest-based company, headquartered in Evansville, Indiana. And as mentioned, we are the largest independently owned pure-play fiber-to-the-premise company in the United States. We are also known over the last 2 years as the fastest ISP in the country. We built our first project in Greencastle, Indiana in 2005. And again, we've been serving 300 plus communities across the country. So why fiber? I'm glad you asked. One is the quality of life imperative. We all know that a lot of people work from home. So you have telework opportunities. There's telemed. We know because of the pandemic, we realize the importance of actually having opportunities for folks to do education from home. And we also know that there's a piece that's really important just for quality of life, right? Streaming is a reality right now, as well as gaming for not only just the young generation, but for the older generation. I was with a friend of mine who's in his 40s that reminded me that when we were kids, I set him up with games for the first time. I've far removed myself from video games, but some folks are still doing video games. Future-proofing the economy. The economy is really driven by the infrastructure that you're built off of. And so when I used to work in local government, a lot of times when we'd have economic development opportunities, one of the questions they were asked was, what does your infrastructure look like? It's not just about sewer connections and electricity, but it's also talking about what do you have for speed, for high-speed internet. And that's what fiber is able to do. You can't get any faster than fiber. So why is fiber unique? A couple reasons. One is a blazing symmetrical speed. So let me give you an example. What we offer is multi-gigabit speed. And it's symmetrical, meaning that your download speed is identical with your upload speed and vice versa. So therefore, there's no latency, and you have your own connection into your household. So therefore, you're not losing that degradation because you're pulling from other people in the community. So your upload and your download are the same. We also have redundancy because the way we build our infrastructure based off of what we call rings. So therefore, if we unfortunately have something like there is a strike, a utility strike that may hit something in the community, we can actually localize that and then have the ring go the opposite direction and make sure that we've really maintained the service for the majority of the community. So here's just an example. I had mentioned some of our recognitions across the country. Again, in 2023 and 2024, we've been recognized as the fastest ISP in the country based off of PC Magazine. We're also recognized as being very safe and have quality customer service. This is actually one of my favorite slides because this really talks about what it means to be a gigabit city. And what a gigabit city means is that over half of your residential population, your households, has access to fiber infrastructure at least a 1 gigabit per second speed. Okay? We are birthing gigabit cities all across the country. And what we'd like to do is, in addition to Bloomfield Hills, provide that to a good majority of Oakland County and Macomb County as well. So how does it start being on this road to gigabit city? It starts with the partnership. It starts with the initial conversation. We've had, and my peers before me had great conversations with the city manager. We sit down and talk about what we'd like to do. We want to make sure that we're in the same one accord with what the right-of-way permitting process looks like, utility locate capacity looks like. We want to make sure we understand your construction standards and we meet those construction standards. And we want to establish a relationship. That partnership is a lowercase p partnership because what we don't do is we don't ask for public dollars. And I think that's tremendously important that we do not ask for public dollars, nor are we dependent on having federal or state dollars to build these projects. We build these projects independently through our own financing. And I'm very excited to say that just last month, our build, which we're what I like to call the Oakland County cluster, which would be considered Bloomfield Hills, the city of Bloomfield Hills, Bloomfield Township, Waterford Township, West Bloomfield, Commerce, and Independence, was approved internally by our team for design and for construction. So when we are ready to go through the proper process, through the Metro Act procedures and working with the county as well as the city for right-of-way access, we already have the funding to do the construction, full construction. One of the things I always like to mention as a parallel, because in my previous experiences working in local government, I used to do CIP projects. We all would love to do CIP projects and do the entire city at one time. But money is an object, right? So we're not able to do that. So what we do is we find a way to finance that over a 5 to 7 year period to do that. Well, what's unique with our private investment is that we do have the money to build the entire build. Now, what we're not gonna do is just inundate the entire community and just come in one big swoop. I'll talk a little bit later about how we actually do the build. As we're building, we want to make sure that we're in dynamic communication with not only the elected officials, but obviously the administrative staff. In particular, the points of contact in our public works, utilities, and engineering departments. And we have a 3-part notification system where we communicate out to the residents prior to us going into their communities. In addition, once we have an active process going on, what we like to do is have regular communications with the local municipality. So we typically have project status meetings that would go on maybe once a month or a quarter or every other month, depending on how the actual local municipality would like to run them, in which we talk about what we've done over the last month in the project, where we're headed to, as well as what communications we've had with the residents and businesses in the communities. And if the unfortunate situation has where we may have had a utility strike, we go over that process and we do the debriefing of what actually happened during that situation. Construction is construction. Sometimes it's not the prettiest thing in the world, but we also acknowledge that a lot of times when we do have some utility strikes, a lot of times there'll be missed marks as well. And then there are some times when there's human error. And we actually address those human errors. We do the restoration, and we also take care of the folks that if there were challenges, we make sure that they go through a process to alleviate that the next time through training and so forth like
Does the
that.
city interact with the resident? I mean, is that going to be something?
Yeah, so there is actually a notification process with the residents, and I believe MetroNet does most of that notification. I think you're probably going to get into
No, I'm
that.
just thinking
Yeah.
if there's an accident of some kind.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
right,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
One of the biggest things that we want to do is not only safeguard human life, right? Because we know there's gas, electricity, fiber is the last thing, that really matters from that perspective. But also we want to be good stewards of the public infrastructure as well. So we're very mindful of that when we go into a build.
Great.
So of course we have a construction period, and then through that construction period we actually have some restoration as well. This is something that's imperative from our executive leadership, is that it's a key performance indicator for our performance over a yearly basis, and it is tracked continuously, which is how fast are we actually responding to residents who call us, and then how fast are we restoring property. Again, we're working in the public right-of-way or in utility easements and not in private property. Unfortunately, the city manager and I had this conversation before, it's sometimes difficult to discern what's the public right-of-way and what's your private property. But that's why that communication is very important, that we do go out and we say, hey, we're permitted to be in the right-of-way, and this is what the process is going to be. If you have any questions, feel free to let us know. You'll also start to see the utility locating. We white line first, and then we make sure that all the responsible utilities go through and make sure that they are notating where the utilities are as well. That's when a lot of residents actually see where there's action that go through as well. And then lastly, we release. It's really important too to note that we release as we go. I mentioned that in this area, we probably have close to 100,000 what we call passes, or residential households and businesses that we could go through with fiber accessibility in this general vicinity. 100,000. That's a lot. We're not going to wait till 100,000 passes get built before we actually flip the switch, right? So the way we actually build essentially by neighborhoods or small local polygons that are roughly 300 to 500 properties. And then once they are actually completed, tested and spliced, then we actually release those for service so that folks don't have to wait a year to get service, but they actually can get serviced fairly immediately after the construction is established.
Since we're a smaller city, would you consider activating it after 150 homes, or a small subset?
Right. And typically, that's a great question. And typically, it really is dependent on how the project is permitted. So we would love to kind of permit, at that level, and then we can do it all together. Absolutely. And that's, Madam Mayor, that's a great question. Just for specifics, I will say this because I did share this news with the city manager that in our design as of right now for this cluster in Oakland County, our expectation is that the start of this construction would probably be in the Bloomfield Township, City of Bloomfield area. So therefore, you guys would get the service first as opposed to other parts of the community. As far as the partnership real quick, it's essential. One of the things that Ben and I talk about all the time is that we want to make sure that there's a face-to-face connection. Not only that we're a big, small company, and we really want to be that big, small company. When you call and look for me, it's actually my cell phone number. It's not an office somewhere in Evansville, Indiana, or you have to go through the directory. We are here because we want to make sure that we build and establish that relationship and sustain that relationship prior to coming into a community and pulling permits. That's really important to us because we know that we want to make sure it's a win-win scenario. We want to leave the community in a better place than it was. And we're part of that. And then on the flip side is we also know that as we're building our network infrastructure, that also is our first interface with potential customers. So it behooves us to do a really good job so that someone would actually want to have our service later on. We also, and this is, I was wondering if this is the direction you might have been going with your question with the city manager. We actually have a system in place where we would like to prevent the volume of calls coming into the city from a FAQ perspective to make sure that you guys don't get inundated with calls that we can handle on our own. So we have a 1-800 number, that's a stateside call center, that we provide that when we have the communication out to the community, that they can call about more information. And this is not a sales pitch, this is about the construction of the network infrastructure, what's actually going on. And so we want to make sure that we're deflecting those calls and that you guys don't get overwhelmed from calls into the community going, what's going on? So that communication aspect is really essential. And again, that's where it's my accountability and responsibility that if those questions do come, you say, Telly, what can we do better to ensure that we're getting this information out to the public? And I think it's also important to talk about just the goodwill as well. This is a really good point that my colleague Ben talks about is we want to be a part of the community, and it's not just about building the network. We should be sustained in this community. We'll have staff that maintains the network that stays here, as well as, of course, we want to sell the product eventually, and we will have folks that actually do the installs as well. We also have a very robust community engagement process where we want to be involved in fundraising efforts and sponsorships of local activities and parks and recreation and literacy programs and things of that nature. That's really important, and it really goes back to the core piece of who we are as a big, small company. Here's an example of the communication. I apologize that it's kind of microscopic up there, but that multi-pronged approach with that communication, those on the right-hand side are actually blow-ups of what the documents really do look like. So the first document is a letter that comes from us, and obviously none of this happens until we are actually permitted and ready to go. So we have a Metro Act that has been formally acted upon by the City Commission, and we have permits to be in that right of way. And so we will send out to all of the properties just a notification to say this is what MetroNet is, who we are, and what's about to happen, and the fact that emphasizing that we'll be working in the right of way and not in private property. We'll also kind of talk about what our staff looks like and that they'll have PPE that will be branded with MetroNet. We'll have trucks that have MetroNet on the side, etc. The second notification is that postcard. That's to the northeast side there. The postcard comes out a little bit before a week before we're actually in the neighborhood, and this is literally telling you it's on the way. Typically what happens is this comes out almost mirroring the time when you'll start to see the white lines that'll notice what our path would be before utility locates occur. And again, there's that 1-800 number for them to call if they have any additional questions. What's really important about that is some people may have an electronic fence or an irrigation system and things of that nature. What we like to do is we make sure that we mark that as well. But again, we want to make sure that we're doing the most we can to protect both the public infrastructure, but also the private property. And then lastly, when we are about to actually start active construction, and I did not mention this, but it's a good time to do so, we follow power as for this infrastructure. So where there's undergrounding, obviously we'd be underground in the right of way. Typically when there's above ground power, that's when we work with the individual pole owner to get a pole attachment agreement and then work to be on that pole as well. So in this example down at the bottom, you'll see that this is going to be an underground part of the build here. And we have the little lawn darts or placards that's in that, that front lawn there that'll tell you that we're pretty close to coming in your area at this point. So that's kind of one of our last pieces of that multi-pronged approach. In addition, for egress and ingress, we also have slapboard signs that notice that say, MetroNet will be in the area, because we want to make sure that people are cognizant that this is going through.
How big is this power line? So you're not underground, you're gonna go to a pole, just like Verizon does now.
So we can attach to a pole, yes. And I'll say this, that you may see on some of your major thoroughfares what a fiber line looks like now. It's typically the lowest attacher.
That's what it is right now.
Yeah.
It's thick and it's black.
Right, correct. It will look the same.
It'll look the same.
Yes.
So in that case, the main lines will run along the exposed, telephone poles, but to each resident, are they then buried and then go to the house?
Right.
Or where there's the example where it's, strung overhead, it's done that way as well?
Correct. And eventually it'll be a drop bury into the property. Yeah, buried into the property. Yes.
No, eventually, because
Yeah, what's
once you get onto the private property, obviously for an install, we wouldn't do that unless that would be a customer sign up, right?
Until you sign up as a customer, they're not going to
Right,
do
we're not going to be
Right,
on private property, right?
Yeah.
And so that at that point, then that would be the smaller installation wire that would go into the home.
But you will bury that for them. Verizon does that for us now.
Yes.
It's an orange line and they
Yes.
bury it into the ground.
Yes, ma'am.
What's the difference between your fiber optic and what Verizon uses now?
So the traditional competitor model is a hybrid. It's fiber, but not fiber to the premise. So we are a full fiber play. That means that it is fiber from long haul fiber all the way into your house. What the current competition has is a hybrid that the last mile is coaxial cable.
Oh, okay,
So from the pole to the house.
It's coaxial cable.
okay.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm supposed to wait to ask these.
No, feel free.
Oh, okay.
And I'm almost done. So
What happens, what do you do if the power goes out?
And so I think that's a great question, and that's what we talked about with redundancy, is that we can actually locate, where there may be an incident, and when we do things on a ring. So this is a perfect. I greatly appreciate that, Ms. McCarthy. So here's the example. If you look on the screen there, that kind of shows what an essential build will look like. That's actually a build in Ohio, a literal build. That's Findlay, Ohio. And so you see some of those kind of weird looking polygons. Those are those neighborhoods that we break up. The large, kind of those larger spokes, if you will, are what we call fiber rings. That's where we would have redundancy. So if there is an incident at one location, we could localize that location and literally run the fiber to around to the opposite direction. So therefore, we're able to mitigate a lot of the major impact where you have thousands of folks that are without their internet service.
So I love the fact you don't use your competitor's name. It's very good. So right now, when we have a lot of trees, and so our power goes out, a lot of people have generators. And what happens is they run on batteries for about 24 hours, and then we lose internet because of it, the 24. And so you're saying in some situations, what they do is they come in and bring generators, which will give us another 24 hours, but if the power's out for more than 2 days, we're kind of lost. So you're saying, currently,
It's current,
but you're saying you would be able to find out where it is? Because you have to have power in order to have this, is that right?
Right, well, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, correct. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
So what we were able to do, one, we have a crew that will be dispatched to assist as well if there is a lack of service. We'll have crews that are local, and I think what the standard, Ben, if I'm not correct, is they have to be within 90 minutes, I believe, to respond to. So we would have crews somewhere in the vicinity that would respond within 90 minutes into that area to work on regaining power to that area. So that would be the local area as well. But what we're able to do is the way we build with redundancy is that we loop it around in a different place. So therefore, the question that was asked by the mayor earlier about not waiting to the last, to get people on, is we wouldn't release for service until we make sure that there is redundancy, so that you have two ways to gain your power. So if power goes out to the right, I mean, I'm going to make it pretty simplistic, that we still are able to have power going into your house from the left-hand side and serve it that way.
So when you go into, I don't know if you can share this or not, you can say, I don't share it, but when you go into a city, what percent tend to come on board with you?
We do well.
Okay,
We
you
do
don't
well.
have to tell, but you do well.
We did well.
So you're competitive.
I think the best way I can answer that, ma'am, is that we're very strategic in our approach. We are a pure play fiber. We don't overbuild fiber. I will caution to say that, because it doesn't make sense. It's not a business case to build where there's already another pure play fiber provider. Okay, from that perspective, and I'll put my old public hat on, public servant hat on, is from that perspective, that community is well served.
Because they already have, yeah.
So that doesn't make any sense to compete head to head from that perspective. But for other communities that do not have that level of service, we're very competitive with our price points, and it's a much higher level of service provision with pure fiber into your home versus what the existing competition is.
Okay, well, that answers my next
okay.
question, because when we had Mike Coakley on the commission, the problem we had is people didn't want to come here because it was so small.
Right.
But there's only
Right.
one competitor,
And so
or one
I've
provider.
mentioned, correct.
Yeah.
I've mentioned a couple times that we're looking at a cluster, and what was approved as a cluster, that the city would be included in that cluster build. And so, I can't attest to how other people run their business, but it
Cluster meeting combined with Bloomfield Township.
correct. So currently, right now, we're looking at essentially 6 to 7 municipalities that would be inclusive, contiguous, if you will, for a network. And so Attorney Knox knows I've sent a couple Metro Acts her way from some of the neighboring communities.
Okay, and I do my homework, by the way. So I see
I
that,
appreciate it. From the person who used to sit in the seat similar to David over there, I appreciate that.
that's okay. So I understand that you're waiting, you did a joint venture with T-Mobile and KKR,
Correct.
and it's supposed to be, if it gets approved this year,
Correct.
which is good, it's bringing you more money, I understand that. But when T-Mobile comes into it, because you got Oak Hill Capital right now,
Yep.
Cincelli Family, and KKR.
Yep.
So when T-Mobile comes in, they're gonna be 50%. Are they gonna change
So
any direction of what we're doing?
that is an absolute great question, and I appreciate that. So let me give a little bit of context to the question that was just asked. So we are a privately owned company, and it was founded by the Cinelli family. We have investors that were both KKR and Oak Hill. KKR has been an investor in Metronet for several years now. Oak Hill has decided to sell. They've sold their portion of that to a pending sale to T-Mobile.
T-Mobile, okay.
What we're hoping to do, and Ben, I'm looking over to Ben to see if he tells me when to stop. Okay.
The thing is, I'm asking this
so-
question is just so that we don't get in the middle of this project and then all of a sudden your new, partner T-Mobile goes, we're not going there.
Absolutely not. So we are moving forward as if that joint venture is not on the horizon, because what the interest is to grow the fiber industry.
That's why T-Mobile invested in you.
I'm trying to.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I get it.
We'll stay out there as well.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine. I get it. That's fine. I just wanted to make sure we don't get into the project and then we have to stop it,
No,
but that's
no.
okay.
So moving forward, so again, the Oakland cluster, the initial Oakland cluster has already been approved by our finance team. So the money is there. We're ready to just go through the process for permitting with both the county, MDOT, as well as the local municipalities, obviously with the Metro Acts and things of that nature, to move forward with that process as well, before we head into literally to potentially start construction by the summer.
Okay, thank you.
The crews that are actually going to be resourced for this area are finishing up the Lansing and East Lansing build right now. So they're fairly local, and they'll be ready to roll.
Okay.
Has Bloomfield Township signed on yet, or?
Yes, Bloomfield Township actually approved the Metro Act a couple weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Last week, maybe the beginning of last week.
Last week, okay, yeah.
Who else in the Oakland cluster has approved?
Bloomfield Township is the first. We're still waiting on responses for action from Waterford, from West Bloomfield. I've heard, and we've had to resubmit some things. There was an error on our side with Independence and Commerce as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome. The next phase that will be a part of this as well would be Auburn Hills, going kind of north up toward Macomb County as well. So we've met with Oxford Township, and we'll be continuing to meet with other townships in that vicinity as well.
Okay.
So just to kind of wrap this part up around the construction, that's kind of what the construction would look like. That's what we'd also share. We'd actually share how the schedule would look like in a 30 to 60 day horizon moving forward. And we have constant communication with the local staff and our local team as well, our outside plant construction. So this is one of the things that's really important for us as well. This is going to talk a little bit about the restoration and what our plant looks like underground. We really try to be 18 to 24 inches below the surface, which gets us above the other utilities. That's really a vital piece to it, because we don't want to go down where there's water, where there's sewer, and Lord knows where there's gas.
Dave, do we have are we below ground anywhere in the city?
Yes, in the newer subdivisions, a couple newer subdivisions are below.
But
But
majority
everything-
They
is,
bury the
But
lines.
most of it is telephone poles in your backyard.
yeah,
And we talked about the sensibilities of that going in people's backyards, and so we'll have to really organize that well, because that'll be a concern with crews behind people's homes and doing all that.
And candidly, we would prefer not to be
Right.
go through that
Right.
process.
yeah.
Absolutely.
The other thing we're gonna have to think about too is, people keep saying they want us to bury all of our electrical lines, which is impossible. But they're
Extraordinary
gonna,
expense.
yeah, and some residents are gonna say, oh, great, another wire going through my backyard.
Right.
Interestingly enough, Terry, so there are some wire cables and that really drop low on some of these poles. We get a lot of complaints on that. So is that something that you consider during construction to make sure, I know it has to be below all the power lines and everything, but at the same time, do you make sure these things aren't drooping down and,
Yeah.
you know, they're high enough so people aren't running into them?
Correct, and we have to abide by the national standard as well, and so there has to be clearance, right, on the poles and obviously from the ground. There is lag in fiber for a reason, because it gets pulled, and so as opposed to having to go back to a pole every time, you put lag in it so that when you do essentially stretch the network, you already have that lag inherent in that. But yes, I am well aware. Typically, when you see, I would say, the unattended poles, that's not us. We have a list, and actually in the packet in front of you, there's a list of some references of some communities. But obviously, we have 300 communities that you can share, reach out to do your own research, which I know you guys will do, to find what are some of those concerns like that, and if you actually had it with MetroNet, and if it was the case, how responsive were we?
What's the diameter of the cable?
Ben?
Like a main run or through
Yeah, the main run from the
Yeah,
pole to pole,
that
and
way.
then from the house. Just give me the two, I'm assuming two dimensions, right?
Yeah, the dimensions, I don't have. The ones that are running through your neighborhoods are about the width of your finger.
Yeah.
Like a dime, okay.
They're pretty small.
Yeah, they're small.
You figure in that, there's probably 100 and some lines running through that. They're very small.
And then
Fibers,
that
strands
main
of
line
the
gets spliced and a smaller line goes to the house.
That's correct.
And that line's, again, smaller yet, but
Yep. Yeah, the line that's gonna run up to the home, boy, that would be, trying to think of something that would fit within that. A phone charging cord.
oh, okay, tiny,
They're
okay.
very small. The
Okay.
only reason they're that big is because it's got a protective sheath around it to keep it safe, so.
Okay.
Okay.
So here are actually some examples. I know you referenced that a lot of your current power is aerial and not underground. I actually, Commissioner McCarthy, I actually was in a city that went through the undergrounding process. It is tremendously expensive,
Oh, yeah, we know
absolutely.
that. Yeah.
So what you see is we are flush mount with our infrastructure. So what you don't have is the pedestal farm that's seated up. We actually do it inverse. And so we call them flower plots because we actually do kind of pick it up from the bottom and it goes depth-wise. You can cut grass over it. You can walk on it. You can actually drive over it as well because they're actually in a vault there. To the southwest corner there, you see the aerial plant. It is the last attacher there, and that's kind of what you'd see traditionally along some of your thoroughfares. So, and then lastly, I just want to continue to emphasize our community commitment. We are here because we believe that not only there's a great opportunity for us, but we believe that this community deserves to have competition for high-speed broadband. And so we're excited about the opportunity. We're excited about having additional conversations and to make the project come to fruition. One of my favorite phrases when I was doing capital projects in local government was, a successful project is a completed project. So it's really about the journey to getting to that completion as a partner. And then while we're going through the process and after the process, we really want to be engaged in the community. And as I mentioned, we have a really robust, this is Ben's favorite part, I think, of what we do, is making sure that we're connected into the community and have that local presence and participate in charitable events and things of that nature. So we are excited. Again, we know that there's still some additional steps that need to be made. Obviously with actually having action by the board, and we are standing, waiting. If you have any questions or concerns, we'd be more than happy to address them. Obviously, we've already started to engage with Attorney Knox from that piece as well, but We're just delighted, and I appreciate the time, and I appreciate the attention, and Lord knows I appreciate the research.
Thank you, Dr. Whitfield. Does anyone have any questions? Any further questions? No? Thank you, Doctor. Appreciate
Thank you.
your time.
So what's our next step here, Dave?
I wonder if, Elena, would you mind saying a few words about the process and the commission's engagement in the
So
process?
for those of you who have not met Alana before, she's one of my partners at Secrets Wardle, and she's an expert in Metro Act and small cell devices. I know that's different than, but that's.
Thank you. I wondered why. I was like, is she working for them?
No,
Is she
she's-
working
No,
for?
I'm
Okay.
not. I'm just the small cell / Metro Act expert at Seacrest Wardle, and
Okay.
have handled that for the communities that we represent, and would be involved in this process with you guys as well. What I will say is Metro Act is a really unique company in terms of the level of communication that they provide the communities, and that's just from my perspective. The next step would be applying for a Metro Act permit, which Mr. Whitfield has already done in Bloomfield Township. Michigan law is, I think, significantly different than some of the other
Yes.
states that Metro Act, that MetroNet
Yeah.
has worked in because we have the Metro Act, which does supersede local control in some ways on fiber and the like. It does have requirements. There are statutory requirements and items that they're required to submit for consideration. And we've gone through that process in Bloomfield Township. The next item after that would be, once they've secured their Metro Act permits, it would be right-of-way permits, and also getting permits from county, from road commission, et cetera. And we would be obviously involved in that process through the meetings. But that's sort of a general overview of what would happen. And then obviously, part of their process, which again is sort of unique, is their rollout process. So there would be a lot of communication with the community, and the city would have input there on how that goes, as well as hopefully developing a plan to respond to the inevitable questions on how that would go. So that's sort of a broad overview of what the city's role is going forward.
I see the key, and you mentioned it in your presentation, the key to this is communication and communication to the community.
Absolutely.
To what's going on. But I actually see it as a positive for the city. I feel like we're doing something to bring in additional, I mean, everybody is looking at, it's competition, and everybody's looking at ways to, I'm on Teams calls and then my camera freezes up and it drives me nuts because I can't have my camera on when I'm presenting. And, it's just that I think we should put this as a real positive of what we're doing for the city, don't you?
Yes, oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we should put a lot of effort into communicating this.
Very excited. We've been looking at something like this since 2017, so.
Yeah, I remember.
We're fortunate that there's a lot of other communities that want to do this all at once, and so, to be honest, we kind of fell into this, so it's a good thing.
Can I just ask a naive question? Everything is so wireless now. This is just fortified because it is connected by fiber and all fiber. I mean,
As far as from security pieces, is that what your question is?
yeah, or you say that disconnects, or, is that?
Yeah, so what were you trying to give me? Okay. So one of the things that is another key performance indicator for us is uptime of the network. And we're at 99.999. I think it goes out to the fourth interval. So
It's faster, like you said. It's faster.
it's not only faster, but we maintain
Your
the
uptime.
network. Yeah. So you don't have the outage. Now, that being said, I'm not naive to the fact that it does happen periodically. Honestly, the last time that I experienced it, it was a long haul fiber issue that happened. That somebody cut a long haul fiber, which we don't own, because just for some reference, there's long haul fiber connections all across the country, kind of like veins. And so for every provider they're connecting in, you have to have access to from some perspective. Now, if that occurs, that was a super rarity that happened. That was a year ago or so. that did impact not only our service, but obviously other competitive services as well that are connected to the same line. But for ours, no, we're up all the time.
Do we require a contract with them, or is it, no, it goes through?
What they're doing would fall under Metro Act, and then right-of-way permits were applicable.
I was going to ask Terry, maybe you can explain, at some point, the infrastructure's there, and at some point, you're going to want to sell the product. So, to the residents. So maybe you can explain how that works.
The sales piece.
Yeah.
Yes. Excellent question, and I apologize that I didn't ask that question. So ask that or go down that route. We do sales in multiple ways, right? What is amazing is that a lot of our sales, when we get close to releasing what we call the LCP or a neighborhood, we actually do have direct sales teams that go out. We do advertisements obviously, so there's self-select, self-service that goes out as well. But preponderance actually of our sales actually comes through direct sales. But the communication, I think a lot of times when we see, I reference with the building the network is the first interface that we have with our residents, that people are waiting and excited because they've been waiting for another option. I'll say this is that there's a reason why we're looking at this market, because we think we'll do well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
don't know if that answered your question to you.
Yes. I mean, I at some point, folks will have to make a decision if they want a
Correct.
gig or 2 gigs,
Right.
and the cost
Correct.
of that, and how do we get that information to the community?
Correct.
That's all, part of it.
Right. So there'll be some marketing as
Right.
well, but our product is going to be very competitive, with the price points for a much higher level of service that you're being provided.
I like your standard of 99.9. It's pretty good.
Actually, well, the decimal points go further back.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. I
Thank you
appreciate
very
your time.
much.
Thank you, thank you. Before we get to Dave's management comments, I just want to quickly ask the commission how you feel about interviewing for a new lawyer and taking it to, RFP and interviewing 3 lawyers. Most of the other communities that are losing Dirk, I mean, you're so valuable, you're so amazing. We're sad you're retiring, but wish you the best. I just think it would be best practice for the commission to consider following protocol and interviewing 3 law firms.
I've had extensive experience in my career, my 36-year career in the legal department of Kmart Corporation and also with the combined Kmart and Sears. And one of my areas of responsibility was managing all commercial litigation within the company. So in my career, I've retained counsel in every state and in Michigan as well. And the things that we have currently with Seacrest Wardle are extremely valuable to the city. You can't really argue with 50 years of experience with our city and the knowledge that they have, the expertise. They are a well-regarded municipal law firm in the area, in the state. They have the kind of experience that we need. Their rates are extremely low. I mean, I can't believe when I came here, I couldn't believe the rates because they are extremely low. I mean, I know municipal lawyers charge less, but they're very, very competitive. And I think the new lawyer that would be coming in has been working with Dirk for many years and has a lot of experience and knowledge about our city and our problems. And I think we've had very good experiences in litigation. I think the law firm has saved us a lot of money in many instances. So I think it would be a mistake to switch or to bid this out. I think we'd end up getting higher rates from someone else They wouldn't have the knowledge, the expertise. It would take a lot of their time that they would bill us for to get up to speed on this city and our issues and our problems. So I think that's something we could always do at some point if we decided we didn't like Dirk's replacement, but I think we would be making a huge mistake to do that at this point.
I just thought, our duty to the residents was to put things out like we did for the chief. We interviewed
I don't
three
think that's
people.
always the case. I think that when you know that you have a really good thing, I think it's a mistake to bid it out. We're not required to bid. We don't have a contract with them. So, we don't have any obligation to stay with any law firm. It's not a matter of bidding, and, you could bid it out and they could raise their rates too. So I think we could end up at a disadvantage. I think you think deeper into this than just say, oh, our residents want us to bid things out. You have to look at what we have, and it's valuable.
Well, he would be interviewed as well. He would be one of the three,
Well, that's,
of course.
but why would we do that? I mean, there's 50 years of history here. They have all our files, they have all the knowledge in their firm. I mean, like I said, I've retained in my career, I've probably retained hundreds of lawyers across the country and managed hundreds of lawsuits. And I would always go for the one that we had a good experience. If we've had a good experience with a law firm or a lawyer, I would keep them. It's a no-brainer at that point. So that's my feeling, for what it's worth.
Other
But
cities are doing that.
I do think I have perspective that maybe some of the others of you don't have on this issue.
So we don't have a contract with you?
We do not have a written contract, no, so you could terminate us at any
We can
time.
fire you tomorrow.
You could fire us tomorrow.
Yes.
That's correct. Yeah, it's always been that way for as long as I've been associated with Secrets Ward in the city, which is, I think I've been associated with the city of Bloomfield Hills 40 years. Mostly assisting Bill Hampton, and then for the last number of years on my own. So it's always been a handshake.
You've only been with us 4 years? No.
No.
Longer than that.
40 years.
Oh.
But Bill Hampton was the city attorney, and I was assisting him for most of it.
Right.
I don't know, I think it's been 10 years maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, no one's
8, 10
questioning
years.
your amazing service.
Yeah.
Can you endorse Mark the way?
I can. And like Alice pointed out, it's a no-lose proposition. If after a few meetings or a year or however long you decide Mark's not working, you can immediately terminate him. I don't think you're going to find that to be the case. He wouldn't have stuck with our firm and our municipal department for 25 plus years if he wasn't excellent. So I think it's going to be a seamless transition, and I think you're going to be proud to have Mark and Alana, I don't know Alana, so she is to her, assisting the city. I'm not trying to be overly modest, but I don't think you're going to see a big drop off at all, if any.
Okay.
I respect your bringing it up so we can have a discussion over it. It's the fear of the unknown.
Of course.
We've been very lucky because Bill Hampton was amazing. You've been amazing for us. But it's that fear of the unknown, and it is a very, very important role for our city. It's got to be a role that protects our residents and the city and the staff and the commission, and so we don't take it lightly with it. But
That's why I wanted to bring it up to the commission,
Yeah.
just to be sure everyone is on board with that.
But I don't know how do you feel?
No, I don't think there's any harm in looking at other firms, though I would probably argue Dirk's firm has the advantage because he's so familiar with the account. It's just a matter of, it is not a contract, so if we had any concerns one way or the other, we could evaluate at that point, but to go through the exercise just to do it, I know if we're better served than leaving it alone. But I don't doubt if we interviewed, we'd find things that maybe we aren't getting from the current firm, though I don't doubt your knowledge with respect to the city gives you a leg up. So, I'm not giving you a
And
great
Mark has
answer.
that knowledge as well of the city. I mean,
Absolutely.
he's been a prosecutor more than, right? Or- yeah.
He's only practiced municipal law. So, yes, he's got that knowledge.
Great, so if the commission agrees, then continue with Seacrest Memorial. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, it's good for you to bring it up, just so we have a discussion.
Thank you. Okay. The commission will now hear city manager's comments. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. I don't have anything to add. We've had a great meeting, so thank you. And I'm glad about hearing about MetroNet. And if I was going to say anything, I think I've said this recently, but I just really appreciate it. I don't recognize the staff that much, but I think Chief King's doing an exceptional job next door. We meet probably maybe once a week or so to talk about things, and he's on track with doing what I think the department needs. And I think Commissioner McCarthy had said, it's a training department. It's a department that needs to be trained all the time because there's 3 disciplines that they have to keep up. So, we're working on all sorts of things. He mentioned the open house. We're looking at ISO ratings, hiring new folks. He's doing a great job there. And everybody's, Amy and Sandra and all the department heads are just doing a great job. So I just want to publicly say thank you to all of them because they make my job a lot easier. So thank you.
And we all appreciate all your hard work as well. Thank you.
Would it make sense to have MetroNet at the open house?
That crossed my mind.
Well, I know that Chief King had mentioned today that there's a lot of folks that want to contribute to it, and I had said that he should mention that to the commission at some point. And we do have, like a donation policy, and so we'd have to go through that. And
Yeah.
There's a lot of folks who want to contribute to this. They're happy that this is coming back. The last one we had was in 2019 because the COVID kind of not killed it.
So for those of you who haven't been around, there was some concern on the history of the open house that, going out and asking for donations, that companies or businesses or whatever would, I donated to your open house, so can you look the other way, chief, and we established a donation policy. So it's a set, we know exactly what everybody donates. Did we set a limit to it? I forgot.
Well, there's no limit, but there's up to $1,000. I can approve it. Anything over $1,000 has to go in front of the commission.
Yeah.
And so maybe we'll have someone buy our $30,000 worth of guns this year. I don't know, maybe.
Let's not do that. No, let's not go there. I don't think that's a good idea. But that will be it. So great minds think alike, Chief. Yeah, we should probably. I just think that would be a really good forum for people to say, "What is this?" Because people have been asking for it, and we haven't been able to find anybody to come into the community. I think it'll be great.
We'd love to give them a
What is the budget for the?
Well, we talked about that. I recall the budget being about $9,000, but when I was talking to the chief this morning, he's got some records that was up to like 16,000 or maybe 19,000 or something. I don't remember it being that expensive.
Yeah, it was. It got up kind of high.
Wasn't the food all donated by local merchants?
Yeah,
If I remember that, that was-
So I think the approach we're going to take is not as big as it was, but a modest, nice community event. And then he's going to figure that out, and hopefully next month in the budget process, we'll see if you're okay in approving a budget for it.
And it'd be held at City Hall, correct?
Yes.
Good. Yeah. Great. Great. The new fire truck and all that would be great.
And
Okay.
They had a fire hose. There was a fire hose that people.
Yes. Yeah, little kids can
And a
shoot
house-
the
Was there a house?
Oh yeah,
on
there's a
fire? Was
smoke
there a smoke
house.
fire?
Yeah, smoke
Yeah,
room.
that was fun.
Yeah,
And-
that's all stuff that we can get from the county, and he said he wants to land a helicopter on the roof. I said that's not a good idea.
Will you use
Better than an
drones or
airplane.
anything to show that off?
Yeah.
Part of the plan.
Okay, awesome. That's
Good.
great. Thank you very much for planning for that. Is there any other further business?
No, I move to
Okay, I'd
adjourn.
like to entertain a motion to adjourn. Sorry, did you say?
Move to adjourn.
Um,
So moved.
The city council meeting is adjourned. Our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, April 8th, 2025, with our first city budget meeting to follow. Thank you, everyone.